A very good morning, everyone. Today we will mainly discuss about how carbon dioxide is transported in our blood. So, carbon dioxide is mainly produced in our tissues as a waste product of the metabolism, especially your carbohydrate metabolism, aerobic metabolism. And in the tissues, the carbon dioxide partial pressure will go up to 46 millimeters of mercury, and the capillary blood in the tissues is matched with this 46 millimeter. The diffusion of carbon dioxide occurs continuously into the capillary blood till the capillary blood partial pressure goes till 46 millimeters of mercury. Because of the constant production of the carbon dioxide by tissues, so tissues will always maintain this 46 millimeters during the metabolic process, and the capillary blood, especially during towards the venular end, mainly grabs this carbon dioxide. Now, after entering the blood, this carbon dioxide will be transported in three forms mainly. One is dissolved form according to the partial pressure. The solubility of carbon dioxide is also more compared to the oxygen, so it will be dissolved more and easily even at the lowest partial pressures, and it will be bound to the amino acids of your plasma proteins and hemoglobin, forming carboxyl group. Majority of the carbon dioxide enters the red blood cell. Easily it can diffuse the lipid membrane, right? Oxygen and carbon dioxide can easily cross the lipid membrane, undergoes hydration. Especially RBC are well equipped with carbonic anhydrase enzyme, forms bicarbonic acid, okay, and this bicarbonic acid readily dissociates into acid proton and bicarbonate. This proton will go and bounds to the deoxygenated hemoglobin. By this time in tissues, how most of the hemoglobin would have unloaded the oxygen. We know what is Bohr's effect. Okay, what happens in Bohr's effect when the unloaded oxygen, hemoglobin unloads the oxygen, it will be having more affinity towards the H plus, and this will readily binds to this reduced hemoglobin, forming HHB, where it also binds at the ferrous atom only, where the oxygen binds. Now, some amount of the bicarbonate will be exchanged with the chloride ion. There is a band 3 protein anion exchanger, because bicarbonate levels in the RBC increases than the exterior, and the chloride levels is always high in the extracellular fluid, especially the plasma. So this will be exchanged, antiport occurs. So slowly the chloride content of the RBC increases. So what are the three major forms? Dissolved form, bound to the plasma proteins and hemoglobin, and hydration inside the RBC, forming bicarbonic acid and H plus bicarbonate ion. This bicarbonate which is coming out of the RBC into the plasma is an important buffer in the acid base regulation. What is Haldane effects? We discussed Bohr's effect, which discusses mainly the unloading of oxygen at tissues. Haldane effects mainly refers to the loading of carbon dioxide at the tissues. That means the deoxygenated hemoglobin has high affinity to carry carbon dioxide. Where this deoxygenated hemoglobin is present? Mainly in the tissues. After oxygen enters the tissues, the hemoglobin will be deoxygenated. This deoxygenated hemoglobin has increased capacity to bind and carry carbon dioxide, mainly towards its amino acid side. Not only that, the H plus, which is formed indirectly by carbon dioxide, has high affinity for hemoglobin. That is Haldane's effect. So consequently, more carbon dioxide is carried by the venous blood, because venous blood contains mainly deoxygenated hemoglobin, which has high affinity for carbon dioxide than the arterial blood. So in tissues, carbon dioxide uptake is mainly facilitated. What happens in the lungs? In lungs, slowly the oxygenation of hemoglobin occurs. So this reduces the hemoglobin affinity for carbon dioxide. At the same time, it also reduces the affinity of hemoglobin for the H plus. So both will be released, and that H plus will be reversed, forming carbon dioxide, and the carbon dioxide dissolved also in the dissolved form in the blood, bound to the plasma proteins, hemoglobin, everything will be removed from the blood into the alveoli, and from alveoli into the external environment. So what is this chloride shift? The bicarbonate which is formed in the hydration of carbon dioxide is exchanged with the chloride at RBC membrane. So this bicarbonate entering the plasma is very, very important for the buffering activity of the plasma. So for every one bicarbonate excess, one chloride is exchanged. Slowly the chloride content of the RBC increases. Bicarbonate content of the plasma further increases. So because they are anions, especially chloride, when the chloride concentration of the RBC increases, it increases the osmolality, it increases the water osmosis of water into the RBC, because the chloride is a highly osmotic active particle along with bicarbonate. So this increases osmosis of water from the plasma into the RBC. So RBC size increases. That's why in venous blood, because of the carbon dioxide conversion to bicarbonate and exchange with chloride, because of this chloride shift, the osmosis of water into the RBC increases, increasing the size of RBC. So overall hematocrit, the packed cell volume increases. So that's why venous blood has higher hematocrit value compared to arterial blood. So if you remember your hemoglobin dissociation curve, it is a sigmoid curve with a steep at lower partial pressure of oxygen because of increase in affinity with every binding to next oxygen molecule. But CO2, it is directly proportional, whether it is dissolved, directly proportional, same like your oxygen dissolution. CO2 dissolution is directly proportional to the partial pressure. Similarly, the concentration of oxygen being loaded in the hemoglobin or else in the blood is directly proportional to the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. It is not like a sigmoid curve of oxygen transport. That sigmoid curve is the result of increase in affinity for hemoglobin molecule with every binding to the next oxygen because of the breakage of the salt bridges. That has been explained in the previous class. Here it is directly proportional, and you can see majority of the time between the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood there is around 6 mm gap, always 6 mm. That means between arterial and venous blood there is always a 6 millimeters constant gap of carbon dioxide content, partial pressures. So how carbon dioxide is transported in plasma dissolved form, bound to the plasma proteins, and some amount of hydration also occurs, but because of less carbonic anhydrase, the hydration of carbon dioxide in plasma is very less. It occurs very slowly. In RBC dissolved form, carbaminohemoglobin, that means bound to hemoglobin near the amino acids and hydration. This is very, very important. 68% of the carbon dioxide is transported in your blood in the hydration, especially in RBC. This is very fast because of the presence of carbonic anhydrase enzyme. So most of the bicarbonate, 70% is exchanged with the chloride. Chloride shift occurs into the RBC. This is an important short notes. Chloride shift, why it occurs, how it is important. So for every deciliter of blood, 3.7 ml of carbon dioxide is added. Some amount stays in the solution dissolved form. Some amount carbamino compounds, that means bound to plasma protein and hemoglobin. Most of the carbon dioxide is transported in bicarbonate forms. So blood drops from 7.4 to 7.36. So venous blood will have 7.36. Slightly, it will come towards the acidic side. So it already told you the basal oxygen consumption of our body is 250 ml per minute, whereas carbon dioxide production is 200 ml per minute. So 250 ml of oxygen is taken in our body and 200 ml of carbon dioxide is produced per minute. So every time this carbon dioxide is equivalent to some amount of acid production, and let's say arbitrarily, if this carbon dioxide is not removed in a day, that will be equivalent to 12,500 milliequivalents of H plus. Normally it is around 4 into 10 power minus 4 or minus 6, 10 power minus 6 milliequivalent. For that less amount of H plus only our body pH is 7.4 to 7.35 to 7.45. If this much amount of H plus is added in a day and it is not removed, then immediately there will be fall in pH even to less than 1 value within fraction of seconds. But that's why every time with your breathing, carbon dioxide is removed from the body, because carbon dioxide increases the acidity of the blood. It adds more and more H plus when it is dissolved. Always remember, you may get doubt that, sir, every time you say that H plus is added, but bicarbonate is also produced. This bicarbonate will, overcome the H plus. But always remember, until unless bicarbonate is separated from this H plus into another compartment, we always discuss about this active H plus. Acid means H plus. Even though there is a strongest base beside this H plus, till H plus is free in a liquid, that increases the acidity. This is law of physics. Okay, this is physics and chemistry. It is like this, that even though bicarbonate is really around, produced from the carbonic acid dissociation, still the H plus is an important factor for acidity. Until unless the bicarbonate is forced to bound to this H plus and the reaction has to shift to carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is removed, till then the H plus produced because of the carbon dioxide will always increases the acidity, that means decreases the pH. Okay, always remember this. But because of the homeostatic mechanisms, let's say in the plasma H plus levels increase and the bicarbonate is added from the kidney, which is addition in addition to the bicarbonate that might have been produced during this H plus formation. So that bicarbonate coming from the kidney will neutralize that H plus. Always remember, when carbon dioxide is present, we mainly talk about the H plus and its acidity. Just uh, that is the way it is. Okay, don't go further into deep or don't think much. As long as carbon dioxide is present, carbonic acid is formed and H plus is present. Don't think about the buffering capacity of that bicarbonate. That is irrelevant. Thank you. Wait for the next video.